Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all having a great weekend and welcome to this new middle of the day market update and also a little bit of next week preparation on the crypto markets. Of course, that's what we're going to do in this video. We'll first talk a little bit about the fundamentals, aka news, which is going on right now, but also that you can expect next week. So we'll start off with that and then we'll take a look at Bitcoin. We'll take a brief look at XRP and Ethereum for those of you who did not watch my daily updates this weekend. Ultimately, there's not much going on with those, so there's not. It's probably going to be a short video, but there are some fundamental things that I did want to talk about and that I do think are interesting. And then I also wanted to talk about some altcoins, which wow, all right. Well, Polyhedra or ZKJ has absolutely crashed. No idea what happened with that. But there are some altcoins right now that I do want to talk about. And that I thought were quite interesting as well. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get right into it. Now, first of all, fundamentally, there is still a lot of tension and perhaps you could call it escalation between Iran and Israel. And that's also, look, going into this new week, that's going to be the main source of unrest, instability and also fundamental price action. But what I just read somewhere on Twitter, on X, which I do agree with, and I think that's good to say also during these points of time, right, when there is a lot of instability, and it's often very hard to know what the market is going to do. And that is that, on the one hand, if you have good news and the market does not react to that, that is a sign of a weak market. But on the other hand, it's also true. Right, so if you have bad news and the market doesn't react, or the market is making what Bitcoin is doing at this point of time, higher lows, then that's a sign of a strong market. Right, so the next 24 hours are still going to be very unstable, still going to be very, very volatile, especially also with the traditional financial markets opening tomorrow. And with the FOMC that's coming up on Wednesday, which you need to know about as well, right? So I already spoke about that in my Bitcoin and Ethereum videos. But that's the interest rate decision and the press conference. That's on Wednesday. So with all of that coming in, yes, it's going to be volatile. But ultimately, Bitcoin is a 24/7 market. And so far, the market looks more strong and stable rather than a market that seems like it's going to crash. Right, so next 24 hours can be very volatile, and can we drop down lower with Bitcoin? Definitely. However, I just felt like you need to know that. So outside of that, like I said, there seems to be still escalation and still rockets being fired from both sides. So that remains something that we have to keep an eye on, and that remains something, in general. That I'll try to keep you updated on that without getting too political. Tomorrow, obviously, we also have all the financial markets opening again, so then we can also say a little bit more about how the general trader and general institutions are looking at that. So I'll keep you updated on that. Then Wednesday we have FOMC, that matters a lot, but I'll keep you updated on that throughout the week, and I'll also be live streaming that. So yeah, I think that's what you need to know regarding the fundamentals for now. When we're talking about Bitcoin, like I said, we're relatively stable here, right? Now, do I think when we're talking about where the main volatility could go in terms of direction, so that would either be upside to the upside or to the downside, at this point in time, I'm still leaning towards the downside, right? Because we may see a further escalation, and sometimes it happens that the financial markets open. And that the open is a little bit dramatic, right? But ultimately, I do think, especially on the higher time frames for Bitcoin, that we will remain stable right here between 107,000 and 100,000, right? So stability on the higher time frames is what I expect. On the lower time frames, volatility, especially the next 24 hours, with the most likely direction to the downside, is what I expect there. But ultimately, stability is what I see across the market, right? If we take a look at XRP, for example, or Ethereum on the higher time frames, those are also consolidating, and they're being quite resilient in the light of all the news, right? XRP is being resilient, it's consolidating right here on top of 2.12. Ethereum is being resilient, it's consolidating on top of the 200 EMA. So yeah, short term, again, that volatility to the downside is definitely a possibility, and I would even say that that's most likely, or at least that's best to prepare for. But ultimately, I still do expect bullish momentum after we've seen some de-escalation, and I do think fundamentally de-escalation is coming. Now, when we're talking about some other altcoins, I just saw that I think this is glitching a little bit because I think this is outdated. Yeah, it's updating. Yeah, it's updating weird. So that's not amazing. But can I please get some better data here? Yeah, so here and there we're getting some good data, but Bitcoin Cash seem to have some nice volume. So maybe that's something interesting to look at. In general, Bitcoin Cash has actually been very resilient. As you can see, it's still holding the uptrend right here on the daily time frame. So that's BCH. That's the ticker of Bitcoin Cash. Of course, that seems quite interesting. Hype is still quite resilient. Also, if you take a look at the higher time frames, I don't have a chart on that, but still something interesting to watch. I just saw that MemeFi has quite a lot of momentum, although I must say with MemeFi that's very manipulated, right? So that is something I do think that, especially if you're a newer trader, that's something to stay away from. And what more do we have? Maybe we have to look at this to actually get some better data. Yeah, threshold. So that is something I spoke about in the premium group earlier today. That had a lot of momentum, huge volume. I think this could go for another spike up, but for now I would wait for a pullback, especially given the open interest which has been opened, as you can see right here. So yeah, I think that's it. I mean, ultimately, not much is going on in the markets. There's not much that you need to know about for now. I think so. That's it for now. I'll keep you updated on that. Also, don't forget about the DeFi narrative, which I still think is one of the best narratives and strongest categories out there. But that's it for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all in my next videos, and bye.